Hello and welcome. Another edition of Thursday Night Coach's Corner, where every Thursday evening, Coach Dave Serrano and myself find a way to speak to today's college coaches from all levels and divisions and try to help inform not only student athletes, but parents as well. And I want to remind people that each and every Thursday, we're going to attempt to make sure we reach out to the coaches, but it is a busy time of year. It is recruiting season as August 1st is upon us. So the 2025s and the 2024s are very, very active. So the coaches take a little bit of time out of their busy schedules. And we're very fortunate tonight to have College World Series National Championship coach Gary Gilmore from Coastal Carolina. Coach, thank you so much for joining Dave and I tonight.
Well, listen, the pleasure is mine and the honor is mine. You guys do so many things for college baseball. Dave, you spent your whole life developing guys and making a difference in people's lives. And, for me, as being a person that tries to do that too, I deeply appreciate all that you've done for baseball as well.
Thank you.
Well, Gary, one of the first questions, and I have been around you since 2009, 2008. I've attended your camps with my son, and I really loved the campus. I would love it if you would share a little bit about what makes Coastal Carolina so special. I love the area, being from Boston, so Myrtle Beach, it doesn't hurt my body to be in the warm weather. But, share a little bit about the history. I mean, Coastal Carolina is a top 25 team year in and year out. What makes it so special for a prospective student athlete?
I'll be honest with you, Walter. I think it's the people. We're a very tight knit community here on our campus, and here in general. We have a million some vacationers come in and out of Myrtle Beach on a weekly basis, but the core of Conway, South Carolina, and our surrounding communities here in the area get away from the vacationing piece right dead on the beach. I mean, it's a very close-knit community. It's a bunch of really small towns, to be very honest with you. It's a small town USA. People think of Myrtle Beach, it's a destination, but it's there's not, in the city of Conway is like 15,000 people. City of Myrtle Beach is less than 50,000. So I think it's just a accumulation of a lot of small communities that have basically embraced the growth of our university over the years, and here on campus, I really think the core crux of our faculty and staff and people, they've been here a long time, and we have great pride in the product we put out, both academically and athletically, and it's just a real wholesome Southern feel to what we do here. To be very honest with you, it's just big enough to, for a kid that wants to kind of get lost in a 12,000 population school, but yet it's small enough that everyone on campus can know who you are if you want to be that way.
Gary, first of all, I appreciate the words you said about me, and from most of my career from the other coast, I know our program at Cal State Fullerton, which I think mimics. I told you this when I saw you a few years ago when we came into town. I think Cal State Fullerton and Coastal Carolina were kind of built the same way. Small schools that weren't supposed to have as much success as they've had, but have had success. As the head coach, what was your philosophy in the recruiting aspect of the kids that you were courting? And obviously, again, I'm saying this with all due respect, that out in Southern California, Fullerton was a winning program, but we didn't always have first crack at every player. We had USC and UCLA, like you have other powerhouses around you. Oh, yeah, what was your philosophy and how you approached kids, and what were you looking for?
Well, I can tell you right now that you and I have lived very similar lives, my friend. I say this to everyone. There are still to this day very few babies born that are born teal and black. They're either born orange or garnet, one of the two.
Yeah.
And so, for us, I'd be honest with you, I'd be willing to bet philosophically we did a lot of the same things. I looked to find great athletes. I really didn't care that they were super great baseball players, if that coincided. that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking, position player wise, we were looking for guys that could run and throw. My generation and yours as well. Heck, I grew up in the turf generation and the old turf with with the Reds and the Royals and the Pirates, and outfielders could throw, they could run, we could steal bases, and I always thought, everybody misconstrues my thoughts of athleticism in that it's all offensive. I'm every bit as much about the athleticism on defense as I am on offense. I think it's a huge piece of what you're trying to do. But, that as much as anything, just trying to find athletic people you could develop that had the heart and the mind to be coached. I think that's one of the greatest challenges today with all the stuff that goes on between travel team and, all the opportunities kids have finding kids that want to legitimately humble themselves to be coached, and I do know over the years that the guys that have been really good here have been guys that basically walked in and said, hey, coach, I'm here. The reason I'm here is I completely trust you. I buy into you. I buy into this program, what you're trying to teach, and I trust you that you're going to develop me to the fullest. So let's roll. And, guys that have done that have been ultra successful here. And, I also have been very blessed over, a 29-year career at this school to surround myself with great people that think the same in a lot of ways and how to teach the game. And, we've all stayed hungry, there's not a golfer on my staff. Our hobby is baseball, man. We're the ultimate grinder guys. My idea of a great day is anywhere I can watch a baseball game. And I feel like our program exudes that, very similar to what you did at Fullerton. That you took guys and you made them tougher. You made them better men. You made them better players. And I think that's coincides kind of with what our philosophy is here. It's a holistic approach. I want you to be a great baseball player, but I'm also realistic. Very few guys make a living doing this, and I don't want to make you into a better man, a better husband, a better father. All these things are all equally as important as just being a baseball player.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's important to kind of continue on that line of thought that a lot of parents and a lot of student athletes, and it's nobody's fault, but we have this travel ball world, and we're all led to believe there's a script, there's a set of directions that we can assemble ball players and kind of get them through the metrics and analytics. And on the other side is a college scholarship and potentially professional baseball. And most parents and student athletes don't understand that for most, the great amount of student athletes that attend college, their careers are going to end after their last college game. And I heard a great quote from Clint Hurdle, who said the one thing that old school coaches and scouts can do is they can see a little bit of guts and nuts in certain players. They can kind of see that motor. Can you talk a little bit about to those late bloomers, those high school juniors and seniors that maybe haven't hit their stride yet? But those are the kind of guys that they have a little bit of chip on the shoulder, and those are the kind of guys that tend to have really good college careers. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's, I think that has been probably for me, Walter, has been the most disappointing part of the portal is that now we have created an environment where the kid that has to develop or struggles a little bit in your program, the opportunity for you to mentor them and to guide them through the challenges of playing and the challenges of life, they go away because we're in a society now that if it isn't instant pudding, we don't want to deal with it. Some of the best players, that have ever played here back in the day when it was common practice were guys that redshirted as freshmen. We go out and find kids that could run 6'5", but didn't have the skill set to be successful enough in the batter's box or defensively at shortstop. And, heck, you look back, by the time they're 3 years into the program, they're all American players because they were fantastic athletes, and this generation right now, you don't have the ability to do that. There are few to no kids that will do that anymore. They're looking for a quicker, faster path to being successful. And, our path with what we do here in the development piece is similar to what a professional program has. A high school hitter takes 5 to 7 years to develop in professional baseball on average. Well, in college, we're trying to coincide with that journey, by cutting short the other end of the journey once they get into pro ball, by developing them very much like a pro team would. And I honestly think, heck, Dave's been around it. I've been around it. I think colleges develop players way better than pro guys did, and nothing against the pro piece. The pro model is they roll the ball out and you play. College, you coach guys. You actually physically help them learn how to hit and how to play the game and things like that. And your window to do that is much shorter than a professional career of a high school guy trying to get to the big leagues. It starts at 18 and you hope he's in the big leagues by the time he's 25.
Wonderful point. Gary, one of the things when I attend events or I'm asked to speak at things where there's parents, I always bring up the point that the sport of baseball is as difficult a sport as any sport that is played. I think it probably mimics golf to some extent. And I always remind parents not to be critical of their son's lack of success unless it's effort, because unless they played the sport, they don't understand how hard it is. Successful people fail 7 out of 10 times. Okay. People in business don't fail 7 out of 10 times. Where I'm going with this is with the way things have changed, transfer portal, all that stuff, instant gratification. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Do you think it's more the player, the parent, or maybe even the advisor?
Oh, I think it's all three personally. We have enabled the advisor to be with this portal. You got guys that, put their clients into the portal, even though the kid doesn't want to transfer because they think they can create a financial advantage in negotiating with a pro team if they get drafted, which the pro guys laugh at. When we talk about it, they laugh like, that has no consequence to them, in regards to that part. And, parents nowadays have changed from what our parents were like. My parents were, they love me, and my dad played in the Yankees organization. And so, I was around baseball all my life, but they had no interference with my life as a baseball player ever. Mm-hmm. And, nowadays these parents are as involved in the process of their kid playing and doing things in baseball every bit as much as the kid is, and it's I really do believe that, they have, all this portal, all this NIL stuff, it just enabled the parent, exactly what we talked before we got on the air, is you got the scholarship, but I want the real money. Where's the other stuff, and, the value of what, Dave, you spent your life teaching and what I've spent, honestly, I don't know. There aren't a whole lot of parents that value that anymore. It's really sad, to be very honest with you. I look at it now, and I had a parent in here the other day that of a kid won't ever play for me. He was a kid was in one of our camps. I was talking to his dad, and his dad's a police officer in California, and it was one of the most meaningful conversations I ever had with a dad. He actually got it. It was all about the experience. He said, Coach, he said, I know you won't be here, but he goes, I know that your staff, he goes, I've talked to them. He goes, I know that your values and things, that very little will change when you walk out of here next year. He said, no, it's not about me paying money or scholarship, whatever. He said, I want my kid to have this experience. He said, I want my son to learn from people who get it and understand what the real world and life is about. It's not that you get your way all the time and everything's handed to you. Hey, my son, just like me, he goes, he needs to get knocked down and see how he handles being knocked down how he's going to respond and getting up back to his feet and respond in a positive manner. And I said, man, that's, you just don't hear that a whole lot anymore, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to say this. There's no NIL amount of money that can overtake those experiences, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
With you.
And I really believe that what's happening, and I just think it's youth baseball unilaterally. I don't really want to say it's travel or this or that, but I think the expectation, we've created a consumer as opposed to developing a student athlete. And the consumer is now not only the student athlete, but the parents and the return on investment and that type of dynamic. When you're out now in your world of recruiting and you look for these athletes, do you find, from a position perspective, do you find student athletes are less understanding if you say to them, we see you as a center fielder, even though you're an infielder? Do you find that student athletes have become position specific, are, pitcher only, and not so much a student athlete these days?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a world, I was a two-way player, and I love two-way players, but they hardly exist anymore. And, part of it too is college. We've made it so difficult. It's kind of like you look at Ohtani and you go, wow, you can't tell me, granted, I get how good he is, but you can't tell me over the course of professional baseball that we haven't missed hundreds of two-way guys, because of, a guy can't do two things. Yeah, he can. All of us grew up, all of us as good players, you grew up a two-way guy to a certain degree. If you had decent arm strength, you definitely were going to pitch at some point in time, and you play, you played a position. And now we've it's really kind of showing my conservatism and old age, I guess. But it's sad to me that kids show up and play on a weekend and at a tournament, and they show up and they throw their 3 innings and they pack up and go home. I mean, I still, my friendships and relationships are what the things that have motivated me in life. How can you not be a great teammate? I want to be there. Hell, I don't play. Listen, my wife doesn't even let me play with my grandkids the board games because hell, I want to win. I ain't cutting them no slack, man. It's like, let's go. You're going to learn to compete. And, it's just not like that nowadays. I mean, these kids grow up playing games and games and games, and they don't care whether they win or lose. I don't understand. It's one of the hardest things in college to do now is teach accountability. They don't understand that the consequences of not doing this and this means we lose. Then, they look at you like, hey guys, if we lose more than 15 games during the regular season next year, we're probably not going to the playoffs. And it's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I mean, doesn't everybody go? Doesn't everybody get a trophy? Doesn't everybody get this? They don't understand how finite the failure piece has to be successful, and what it takes to do those things. I just don't quite get what we're doing. We have created a business world of baseball. I'm not bashing the travel guys, man. There's a lot of good ones out there, but they're all in it for business.
Yeah.
I grew up, every coach I ever played for, he was in it for the passion and the love of the game.
Amen.
And it wasn't about, he's making, he's making his $500 for coaching the team, whatever, which maybe paid him $1 an hour at best, and again, we've gone away from that whole concept to all of this is everything you do is a money-making thing. I mean, from pitching labs to hitting labs to this to that. I mean, we've just turned our sport, into, an arena where, unless you have money, it's hard to compete in our sport anymore. I mean, this is completely off tangent, but I mean, I believe if, God willing, my health holds in there and I make it 20 more years, you're going to see the white American middle class kid that plays baseball continue. They're going to go on a massively downward trend in professional baseball in the big leagues because the Spanish speaking kids are going to blow right by them. And it's just, there's going to be more of them. There's not as many of our kids willing to pay the price. Heck, we had a kid Remillard kid that played for our championship team in 16. He was a senior and signed. He was, I think, a fifth rounder as a kind of more of a money saver guy or whatever. But, he played 790 games in the minor leagues before he got his big league debut here about a month and a half ago. All right. That's like 5.5 years after college.
Right.
How many guys would grind that out? And you guys, Dave, I know you can appreciate this. My wife and I took my oldest grandson's 9, and I took him. We flew up to Chicago and went out on the field and watched BP. And he came over and gave me a big hug, and I told him, I said, Zach, I said, just tell me, man, what motivated you? I said, I didn't realize this when I walked in here today, and I said, I read it in one of the PR things the White Sox just put out that you played 790 minor league games. I said, I'll be honest with you, I did not realize that. I said, what motivated you to just keep grinding, man? And both of us got tears in our eyes. First him, then me. He goes, Coach, what you taught me at Coastal, he said, you helped me develop my faith in God. And he said, the work ethic that you all created for me there taught me how to deal with grinding it out every day. And the faith portion gave me belief that God had a plan for me to play in the big leagues one day. And he goes, I could never, ever thank you. He said, I would not be standing here if it wasn't for you. Well, I'm telling you right now, man, my grandson saw me cry for one of the first times in his life because that was one of the most incredible moments of my life, to be very honest with you. It was that's the part that scares me, where with some of the things we're doing in the world now that we're missing this piece. We're creating a generation of kids that don't experience these things.
I'm sure Walter's going to replay this many times because that is as good as a story as I've ever heard.
Amen.
And it's so educational for those people that want the instant gratification. My son's going to go directly to D1 and play right away. My son's going straight to the big leagues and playing every day. It's a process. It's a road. It's a windy road. It's a bumpy road. And some people get off the road, and what a great story, Gary. Kind of on a different note, Walter alluded to this when he opened up the show. August 1st, first time that coaches could contact 25s, 24s, or if they're not committed somewhere, they're probably starting to panic. If you didn't receive a call on August 1st, parents and players are starting to panic. What's the best advice? And the guy who's asking the question went to a junior college for 3 years and sat the bench for 2. What's the best advice you can give that player, that parent, to kind of take a deep breath? And what's the best advice you can give them?
Don't panic. Just continue to grind and evolve. I think the biggest misnomer, and you've been in this level as your whole life as well. I was a junior college player as well. I got a chance to play pro ball. All of us develop differently. Yes. I watch it every day. I think the biggest part is to humble yourself and find the best fit for you. Find a coach you want to play for. Find a program that's going to develop you. I mean, if you're good enough to play beyond college, there's not a school out there that the scout won't find. You simply have to be good enough to play. I mean, I watched a kid. I was up in the Cape. We had 7 guys up in the Cape this summer, and I went to a game, and I'm sitting there watching the game, and all of a sudden in the 8th inning, this little 5'8" right-handed kid comes out on the mound, and I'm like, damn, this guy is really little. compared to all these other big dudes up here. Well, the first bolt out of his hand was 94, and he threw some kind of. I thought from the distance, I'm going, man, because I stand on the side, I'm pretty sure it's a split finger. And because I got on the phone, called Coach Beverly, my pitching guy, says, any shot this cat's in the portal. I said, it's really good, man. I said, he just threw 11 pitches and struck out the 2, 3, and 4 hitters for Bourne, one of which was one of our guys who's leading the league in hitting. And I said, they looked extremely uncomfortable. And so he calls me back. He said, I think that's a curveball. So I asked my guy after the game. I asked Bender. I said, Bendy, what is that cat's throwing? He said, Coach, that's a splitting. He said, you got no shot. He goes, he can tell you he's coming, and we ain't hitting it. He said, it's the second time we faced that guy. And he said he struck out the side twice in a row. I pulled up his NAIA numbers. Guy's striking out 2.1 an inning.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And here he is. But, again, there's not a Division I school in the country that could use that guy. And I'm talking LSU and everyone. That guy was really good. So my point being, find your niche. Too many of them are like I tell them at camp. When these kids come to camp, all of you aren't Division I players. I appreciate you being here, but at the end of the day, it's about getting on the field. Too many Division I players, they spend 2 and 3 years sitting over collecting splinters all day long that are good enough to play in a lot of places. Again, if there's a means to an end and you're willing to grind out and you can see the movement forward, but you're having to wait a year or so to play or whatever, that's a different story. But there are too many of them that they just want to go on Twitter or social media or whatever and tell the world that, hey, man, I committed to this place and that place or whatever. And it's like, we'll look at them as a staff and go, what is that guy doing? That guy can't play that. Because a year or 2 years down the road, that person's going to end up looking for another place. He's going to be calling Dave to go to an NAIA school because he needs to find a place to play. And I think parents' realization of where their child is a huge piece that is so missing in our country right now. We are so much about everybody seeing us on social media versus being realistic with where our kids at. You want your child to be challenged, but you also need to be realistic. That the game is about playing. It ain't about sitting over there on the bench. I was very disappointed when we added, guys to the roster in Division I. We went from 35 to 40. Hell, 35 is too many. If I'm playing number 35, and Dave will tell you this, if 35's playing a bunch, we're not very good.
Yeah.
It's what it is. I get it. So I just think the parents of this generation, just they have become social media hounds, and it's more important that their friend know that their kid is a commit to this or that than it being a right fit. The amount of just early commits, some of that blows my mind. I don't know how you feel, Dave, but it's like, heck, I didn't commit to go to college until I was almost through half my senior year in high school.
Yeah.
These kids are committing and they haven't even played a high school game. It's like, if you're that good, my wife could pick you out. You don't need a coach to tell you anything, but for the rest of them, it's like, I really, kid hadn't played in high school and he's already picking out where he's going to college. Some of this stuff, some of this too is on us. The system we've created is not good. It doesn't nurture kids in the manner they ought to. And, the way it was originally set up for guys to make visits, people to get to know kids, this and that, has all gone away, for this early sign, early commit stuff. And I'd love to know, how many, what the amount of transientness of college baseball is across the board. I'd be willing to bet at least 50%. Across the board.
And I have to believe that I think parents need these types of resources to understand. Slow it down. Let your child be a teenager and let them grow and mature and kind of understand what it is they like and don't like and where they would like to spend their college career. And
I'll tell you this, Walter. Dave and I, neither one. There's never been a guy that could help us get to Omaha that we wouldn't sign in June of his senior year because we ain't got no money. Oh, hell yeah. We'll find money somewhere.
Well, let me say this, Gary. Ricky Romero, who pitched for us at Cal State Fullerton, Scott Gorgon, who pitched for us at UC Irvine, Danny Dorn, who played on the College World Series National Championship team like Ricky Romero, all June signs of their senior year.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Some of the best
and they were
players,
all
some of the best players we've ever gotten have been late spring guys. Their senior year, whether it's high school or junior college, got people that guys didn't want. You know,
it's more of the finished product. You know exactly what you're going to get at that stage of their life.
Exactly. You're 100% right, no doubt.
Well, Gary, I can't thank you enough. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to a carbon copy of Coach Serrano here. Everything you say is the same exact stuff he tells me. And I mean, I think we need more of that, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'm really glad that we finally got the opportunity to catch up. And when I told Dave that Gilly was joining us, he goes, "I'll make it work. I got some stuff I got to do."
I deeply appreciate it. Dave, I'll tell you this. I mean, for many years, I mean, obviously, I watched your Fullerton, Irvine, all that, whatever. You were a guy that, I could watch and go, that guy, he and I are cut from the same cloth. I love how your players play, how tough they were. I mean, some of the, you do like I do. You do some things that people consider unorthodox, so to speak. But it is getting people to buy into the team concept of a group of people getting to Omaha, not one person getting to Omaha. And it's a different way. You got clubs out there now that they just accumulate talent.
Yeah,
we have to accumulate people and develop human beings into. I kept telling my team in 2016. I kept telling them, said, guys, don't be offended. We're not the most talented team in the country, but if every single one of us is pulling together, every single one of us loves each other, we're going to pick each other up when someone lets us down. That the power of us together, all as one, is bigger than any power they can be.
Yeah,
and it panned out, man. It's
well, Gary, coming from you, that means the world, and the respect is mutual. From across the country, most of my career, I saw what you guys were doing, and like I said, I don't. This is no bones about it. You guys were a mimic of what we were trying to do at Cal State Fullerton. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Listen, guys, thank you so much for having me, and let me know anything I can do to help you guys make a difference in college and in the world of baseball at all levels. I'm just mixing off the days as much as I don't want to. It's the right thing to do. And please keep me in mind if I can do things to help you guys and make a difference. Just please feel free to reach out to me.
I appreciate it, Gary. Thank you very much. And Dave, thank you. I know you were busy today, and I appreciate you jumping on with us today.
Wouldn't miss it.
People have been missing you. I can tell you that.
Oh, there's no doubt, man. Aren't enough guys like you in this world, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, join us next Thursday. We'll have, I believe we're going to have either Greg Wallace or Nathan Choate from Washington State. One of the two will join us next week. Remember, we're brought to you every week by Six Tool and the Baseball Blue Book. Have a great week in baseball. We look forward to talking with you next week. Thank you, guys.
Have a blessed day, gentlemen. See you.